I started listening to your book about 4 or 5 days ago, and the very first chapter talks about this idea of me plus.
Yeah.
I wonder if you can elaborate, what does me plus mean?
So if you go back to the economics, we're really good, I think, at helping ourselves in the present day. So we know what makes us happy in the moment, but very often the things that we have to invest in to give our future selves a better future, we don't often do. So what I like people to do is to think about where would they like to be if it all worked out. So if they threw out, loss aversion, if they threw out fear of failure, where will they actually end up being? And have that be their me plus. But before they commit to that being their me plus, really think about what will that me plus actually do? Because I've noticed a lot of times when I talk to people about careers, they're attached to a label. So they want to be a trader or an investment banker, or they want to be a doctor, or they're attached to a lifestyle. So they want to be able to go on a particular vacation or buy a particular car. And the kind of Think Big journey is really thinking about, if I were to be a doctor, if I were to be a trader, what would be the tasks that I would be doing on a day-to-day basis? And would I ultimately end up enjoying those tasks? So the activities that I'm going to spend the time in. And there's two reasons for that. So one, it makes you happier to actually do tasks that you like, which feels like a no-brainer. But secondly, if you're engaged in tasks that you like, you tend to be more successful. And it's the second that I'm really interested in, and kind of getting people into jobs where they feel that they've reached the success that they want.
Okay, interesting. And do you think when it comes to being engaged in tasks that you like, some people say it's a case of find the thing that fits within your values, your personality, and once you find that thing, then you'll find it fun. And then there's another school of thought that says, well, the whole finding something that you're passionate about is actually kind of hard to do. So think about the stuff that you're actually doing and find ways to make it more interesting for yourself. How do you feel about those two different camps?
I don't really feel that they're different. So, so people are claiming now that they choose companies based on the values the companies might have. And I think that's true in the same way that we choose a company based on a salary. But when you're actually in the job, what tends to matter with respect to productivity and happiness is how you feel in those tasks in that moment. And if I'm working for a company that's saving the environment, but I'm being treated really badly in a microculture in order to save that environment, there's a couple of companies come to mind when I think about that, then I'm not going to be productive and I'm not going to be happy. And I'm actually likely to leave that job. So it's more about going beyond thinking, what is the company's mission? What is my personality? And what is the microculture of the team that I'm going to be working in? And will that make me happy? Will I be connected to the mission because my team is connected to the mission?
That's very hard to assess in advance when you're applying for a job.
It's really hard. It's really hard. And I think then if you bring it down to the tasks and asking at an interview, what will I be doing on a day-to-day basis? So when I come to work for you, Ali, what would I be doing on a day-to-day basis as part of your team? So if you can imagine me on a Monday, how will I spend my time? The fact that you as a manager have thought about that, firstly, will tell me that you're a good manager because you'll know actually what you want the person to do. And you're not just hiring blindly. But the second is having that information allows me to make my mind up. Because if I like the tasks, I'm probably going to like the team.
Okay. Yeah, that's very interesting. So that was a big part of the message that I took away from the Me Plus stuff. And the way it manifested in my life when I read it, I was thinking, okay, let's engage with this. Like, what does Me Plus look like? And initially I was thinking, I'd really like to have 6-pack abs. And then I came across the bit where you were like, no, forget about that. Focus on like, what do the tasks look like? And I was like, okay, you know what? What I want Me Plus to do is to be able to exercise every day and to have fun doing it.
Yep.
And so for the last 4 days, I've actually been to the gym. I went to a yoga class yesterday morning. I did a workout at like 8 a.m. this morning. Awesome. And I've never really done this sort of thing, but I was like excited about that. I was excited that the end goal was not 6-pack abs. I was excited that the end goal was that in a way there wasn't an end goal, and it was a case of just, I want to be able to enjoy this. Is that the sort of thing that you get a lot when you're doing this sort of research, that process rather than outcome kind of thing?
So I kind of write a lot for kind of people who mightn't have made it yet, or people who have plateaued. So if you take the exercising analogy from somebody who's contemplating doing the kind of a 5K run rather than somebody who is contemplating doing the London Marathon and is really well placed for that. Yeah. And I think for the person who hasn't done exercise for a while, or the person who hasn't really invested in their career for a while, the worst thing they can do is do too much. So if you hadn't invested for a while, the worst thing you could do is go to the gym for 3 hours. You might get through it today, but the chances of repeating that are really, really small. And I think kind of one of the big powerful messages underlining Think Big is whether you're focused on your health or whether you're focused on your career, it's those small actions that you take today will determine yourself in 2 years' time, 3 years' time, and 4 years' time. And actually by throwing out the idea that you're going to reinvent yourself in 30 days is really, really powerful, because you're much more likely to stick to it. You know, you can accomplish an extraordinary amount in 12 months, very little in, 12 minutes or, a very short period of time.
I've been making videos semi-themed around productivity for the last 4 years, and a big chunk of the advice boils down to consistency and just showing up and taking small actions repeatedly, and in a way not really worrying so much about the ultimate goal. And these days I teach courses helping people become like YouTubers and stuff. And the way you become a successful YouTuber is you just make 1 or 2 videos every week for the next 5 years. But no one sticks to it for that long, because they have I must hit a certain subscriber count. I must hit a certain view count. And my view on this is that having, in a way, those outcome metrics, the ones that are outside of our control, are kind of unhelpful, especially at the start of a journey. Do you have any thoughts on that point?
Well, when you were talking, it actually reminded me, I watched a video of yours on compounding. So when people are choosing to invest, we accept compounding very, very easily, right? So we accept the idea actually that, if we leave money in for a very long period of time, it's going to compound. So we're probably going to be okay in our pensions. And it's exactly the same here when it comes to your career, those very small things that you're going to do today. And I asked for a commitment of 90 minutes a week, which for most people, regardless of how pressurized you feel, is very, very possible. That should compound once you've chosen tasks that align with your Me Plus relatively quickly.
Okay. 90 minutes a week. That's 13 minutes a day-ish.
Yes.
Very doable.
It is.
for most things, yeah.